Shawn Porter has not given up on that Terence Crawford fight just yet. Let's talk about that. So look, Shawn Porter recently did an interview and they asked him who do you want to fight? And he stated it's Terence Crawford. It's Terence Crawford that he wants to fight. Despite Amir Khan getting $5 million to fight Terence Crawford. Despite Kell Brook getting $2 million to fight Terence Crawford. And Bob Arum offering Shawn Porter $1 million to fight Terence Crawford. Despite all that, he still wants to fight Terence Crawford. He said that he spoke to his dad and that his dad told him, go get that fight, which any father should say that. Shout out to all the fathers out there. But yeah, go get that fight, and that his dad is working hard to get that fight. And that's good news, because we've seen Shawn Porter say that he didn't want to fight Terence Crawford because they were friends and they didn't know if they were going to fight. But now I feel like being offered $1 million, being lowballed from Bob Arum, when you got, like I said, Amir Khan making $5 million, Kell Brook making $2 million. These are two washed up guys, and you offer top 5 guy only $1 million. But yeah, despite all that, he still wants to fight him, so it's a good thing. And I'm not talking about being buddy and not wanting to fight each other, which is kind of sucks for boxing. This boxing, there should be no friends. Back in the day, there wasn't any friends. Everybody fought each other. So there's no reason for, there's no reason for this race to not fight this race. Every race should fight every race, even if it's the same race. Buddies should fight buddies. At the end of the day, you're both making each other money, for your families and for your loved ones, everything. But yeah, despite all that, he still wants to fight Terence Crawford, which is good, because I'm ready to see that fight. I want to see that fight. That's one of the biggest fights that I'm looking forward to seeing, just because we all know that Terence Crawford, not saying Terence Crawford is not a great fighter. I'm not knocking Terence Crawford or anything. But we haven't really seen Terence Crawford in the ring with a guy like Shawn Porter. We haven't seen him in there with one of the top 5 guys. Plus, how is he going to deal with Shawn Porter's style? That's one thing. We've seen Earl Spence. We've seen Keith Thurman. We've seen Danny Garcia and numerous others. I feel like the guy that did the best was Ugas. Ugas really, he kind of made, even though Shawn Porter didn't fight his regular fight like he did with the Spence and Thurman and stuff, he kind of fought a different fight, but still, Ugas still made him fight Ugas' fight. But we've never seen that. We've never seen Terence Crawford fight a guy like that. And we want to see Terence Crawford fight these number 1 guys. We want to see him fight because Errol Spence has already fought Shawn Porter. Can he do better than Errol Spence when it comes to fighting Shawn Porter? Those are 2 big things for me right there. Well, 3, just because we want to see him fight a top 5 guy. So those are 3 good things. So Bob Arum, please stop lowballing these talented, good fighters. We want to see these fights. We know Terence Crawford is legit. We've been known that. We just want to see him fight these guys. And on top of that, he's the mandatory for the WBA welterweight belt that Terence Crawford has. But for Terence Crawford, he needs to put it in Bob Arum's ear too. He needs to put it in there that he wants to fight these guys. Not only because he wants to show that he can beat these guys, which I know he thinks he can beat these guys. He knows that he can beat these guys. But we want to see if Terence Crawford beats Shawn Porter, whenever Errol Spence and Terence Crawford end up fighting, whenever they negotiate, there might not be a 70-30 or a 60-40. If you beat a Shawn Porter and beat these guys, then maybe it does start going to 50-50. Maybe it goes 50-50, have a rematch, and the rematch may be 70-30, 60-40, or whatever. But you have a bigger leg to stand on when you beat a Shawn Porter and you fight on pay-per-view, because people talk about Terence Crawford's pay-per-view. They talk about his pay-per-view as he doesn't sell, or he only sells in Omaha, and he doesn't really sell that many pay-per-views, and he hasn't really been on pay-per-view but 2 times. Errol Spence has been on there 3 times. Mikey, Shawn Porter, and Danny Garcia. And all 3 of those have sold. So he can sell out. He can sell out these arenas, the Cowboy Stadium, and all that. Even during a pandemic. So fighting a Shawn Porter and getting those views and getting those buys and people buying them tickets, and you show that you can bring in just as much as this person can, then you have a bigger leg to stand on when it comes to negotiating 70-30, 60-40. But man, I just want to see these fights. I want to see these fights. I hope Shawn Porter continues to push his fight, and I hope Terence Crawford continues to push Bob Arum into one of these fights. And we can't really say that these guys are scared to fight each other, because we've seen Al Heyman and Bob Arum. They really can't work with each other that well. We've seen that with Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. We've seen that. People can throw in, Earl Spence is scared, or Terence Crawford is scared, or Shawn Porter is scared. These guys are not scared. It's just the promoters. They have to learn to come together and make these super fights that we want to see. We don't want to wait 10 years to see these fights. We want to see them now. And when it comes to Shawn Porter and Terence Crawford, we want to see these fights. So if you have to offer more than $1 million, like Shawn Porter made $2 million against Errol Spence. Offer that man $2 million and give him some of the pay-per-view buys, the revenue. Offer that to him, and he'll take the fight. But when it comes to mandatory, we'll see how that goes and see what that turns into. And, hopefully we get that fight, because that's a fight that I feel like Terence Crawford needs to show some of these guys that, he can beat top 5 guys. And, he can show Errol Spence that he deserves 50-50 or whatever, But let me know what you guys think, in the comments. Hit that comment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.